So, in terms of publishing and releasing your book, actually getting out to the people who buy it and how they get it, Amazon has made this unbelievably easy, which I think has really fueled the self-publishing revolution. It's really simple to create an ebook, and then it's really easy to release them. Amazon takes care of all of the payment processing, and then sending the ebooks to readers. You don't even have to have any awareness of that, but it's also quite easy to make up an ebook. I think EPUB is the most popular format now, and you can email it to people, or you can put it on a thumb drive, or you can pass ebooks around quite easily to friends. Amazon also does print on demand paperbacks and hardcovers, which for people who kind of aren't really up on this, they have printing presses that basically make each book pretty well as they're ordered. And so people will order the book and they'll just create a paperback book or create a hardcover book to send off to that customer. In actuality, they kind of present the illusion of this, that they're just printed as they're purchased. But I believe that Amazon actually does the printing in batches. So if you put a book up on their site for the first time and somebody orders a copy, I think they actually make like a dozen books or something like that, and then they sell from those books. And then once they have all sold, then they print up another batch. And just because there is some effort in setting things up, but they kind of take the hit on that if those don't sell, or if you change your design or something like that. So to a customer, it just looks like you order the books and they're printed as needed, which is really nice. You'll sometimes hear the debate about Amazon versus Wide. And what this is a lot of authors just sell through Amazon. So that's the only place you can get their books. And Amazon is a very sophisticated marketplace. It makes things really, really easy. You can sell ebooks there, you can sell paperbacks there, you can sell hardcovers there, and you can sell audiobooks there through their Audible site. And so basically, Amazon offers just about everything that you could ask for as an author. Once you've reached a certain volume, once you're selling a lot of books, then people will start finding that there's people who just don't buy through Amazon. They're on other sites and they buy other places. And this is called going wide. When you start selling at Google Books, and you start selling at Barnes and Noble, you start selling through Indigo, and you start selling through all these different sites, and that's called wide. And I'd say for your first book, and while your sales volume is low, it's not worth going wide, even if you sell the occasional book in multiple places. Having to update books and enter the information to all of these different sites is just more trouble than it's worth until you've got a certain volume. So if you're selling a ton of books on Amazon, it's worth considering going wide at that point. But until then, I would just release on Amazon, and that'll be a great place for people to get your books. There's basically 3 web pages that you fill out for your book on Amazon. And I thought about actually going into the pages here and going through the 3 websites and showing you how to fill out the fields, but it's all quite straightforward. Any field that you're not really sure what they're asking for, if you just Google Amazon and the name of that field, and KDP is the name of the system that you set your books up with, it'll come up with pages where people explain what's supposed to go into that field and how to enter it. And it's like doing your taxes a little bit. It's a little bit complicated the first time you're doing it. And then once you've done it, it just becomes really easy, and it's pretty fast and straightforward to fill out these pages. They'll ask for your banking and tax information, and that's because you're basically a small business as soon as you sell a copy of your book. And so they're going to want some way to send you the money. That's why they need your banking information, and they'll be reporting the sale to the government to ensure that you pay taxes on it, which is why you fill out your tax information. And again, that's just some forms that you fill out. If there's anything about the page and the fields that you're not sure about, just Google it, and there'll be extensive descriptions about it from multiple different websites and from Amazon itself. Audiobooks have really taken off. And one small press that I talked to, actually run by Jim Bernheimer, who I mentioned earlier, he was selling a bunch of books and he created his own small press to sell his books and other people's books. And he told me that 80% of their sales are audiobooks, which blew me away. It was way higher than I thought. And I'm not sure if that's in terms of number of sales or if that's sales volume, because audiobooks are more expensive. So it might make sense that that's the 80% of the dollars of revenue they generate. I'm not sure. He said the remainder is about 15% ebooks and 5% paperbacks. So, ebooks and paperbacks are the easiest things to produce on Amazon. So, I'd say get started with those and think about audiobooks once you've got some traction and once you're selling enough copies for it to be worthwhile. But there's a really big market for audiobooks. So, once you've got to that point where you're selling some copies, selling audiobooks will definitely help you sell more copies. If you're recording nonfiction, you can record yourself. That's considered more acceptable for a nonfiction author to self-record their audiobooks, and then it's kind of like the author telling the reader directly the information from it. But people frown on this for fiction. The idea is that most writers aren't good voice actors, and so it's considered that you're better to hire a professional narrator if you're recording fiction. As role players, I think there's a little bit more of a voice performance that we've developed when we're playing characters and for dungeon masters playing different NPCs. And I think a lot of role players could probably narrate an audiobook if they had the interest in doing it. And so you might get some pushback on this, but I'd suggest that if you're thinking about creating your first fiction audiobook, consider narrating it yourself and seeing what the final product is and how you like it. I've narrated my own audiobooks for two of my nonfictions, and I bought the mic pictured here. It's called a Blue Yeti mic. It's around $130, and then you can use audio editing software. Audacity is an open source version of this to edit what you record and get the sound quality to what is expected by Audible and companies that sell audiobooks, and they just package up all of the recordings that you've made for your book, and then they sell audiobooks. And it's, again, there's a little bit of a learning curve. There's a little bit of technical elements to hook up the external microphone and to record it and to edit the audio, but it's not too complicated. I think most people could figure it out in a couple hours. If you don't want to record your own audiobook, or if you agree that fiction should be recorded by a professional narrator and not by the writer, then you can hire narrators who will record your audiobook for you. And again, because we're self-publishing, we're the ones who have to pay people who do work on our books. Nobody's doing work on our books just on a volunteer basis. And the two big ways that narrators can get paid is that there's either a revenue share. So how this works is every time an audiobook is sold, some of the money will go to the site that sold the audiobook, some of the money will go to you as the writer, and some of the money will go to the narrator as the person who did the audio performance. And the nice thing about this is that there's nothing up front. You're not actually paying the narrator. You're just sharing the revenue as it comes in. And so there's no risk for you as a writer. If the audiobook flops and nobody buys it, then both you and the narrator are out the money or don't get any money. You're not actually out anything for having hired them and paid for them. The alternative to this is that you pay the narrators to record the book, then you own the audio recording. You basically purchase it off of them. Then you release the audiobooks and you get all of the revenue from the audiobooks. And the narrator only gets that one-time payment. And typically you pay by per finished hour. So it's an hour of recording that the narrator produces, and it'll start at around $30 per finished hour. And so one of my novellas, it was kind of a bit of a shorter book, and when I added up the likely time it would take to record it, it was going to be 6.5 or 7 hours. And so if it was 7 hours at $30 per finished hour, that would cost me $210 to the narrator to record it and get a recording. The $30 is for new people trying to establish themselves as narrators. And so you can and will pay more for kind of the more accomplished narrators who have a bigger range of accents and are better known. And you can even hire celebrities. And so, Will Wheaton narrates audiobooks, and kind of, if you have the money, you could hire somebody like that. And I think actually celebrity narrators cost less than you'd think. It's going to be a lot more than $210, but it's not like you're going to have to pay Will Wheaton hundreds of thousands of dollars to record an audiobook. A lot of these celebrities who do it have a recording studio in their house, and they do it in between other jobs. And so it's something that they can offer a pretty good price on, because it's just fit around it's an extra revenue source. It's kind of a side hustle for them. And so, personally, just being cheap, I'd try to do the revenue share if I could with a narrator, and then you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. But if you really want to have control, and if you're optimistic that your audiobook is going to sell like gangbusters, you might want to just pay one time to the narrator and be done with it, and keep all the proceeds from the sales yourself.